GM, GA, GE, wherever you may be. Today on Lucky Trader Lounge, we will be talking about Stageverse. So listen in if you'd like to hear more. Welcome. So today we have Josh on from Stageverse team. So let's just start off with a little of your background and how you're connected to Stageverse.
Yeah, for sure. So my background, I actually started my career in the sports world a little bit. My first job out of college was with the Chicago White Sox, but bounced around on the agency side, doing some work with a lot of brands. So doing sponsorship activations and managing sponsorships with leagues and teams across like NBA, NHL, NFL. And a little on the talent side as well. I also, at that point did dabble a little bit in music. And after I got out of the agency worlds, really just had the appetite to work at a startup and build something, that I could really get my hands dirty on and scale. So my last job, I worked for a traditional live streaming company. So we did like 2D streams of music events primarily. So everything ranging from electronic music to rap and hip hop. We streamed for Rolling Louds, which is the largest hip hop festival in the world. Did a number of dance music events, and then when COVID hit, of course that world picked up a little bit. And I did a deal with Coca-Cola called Coke Studio Sessions, and I did 180 artist live streams over 60 days, and it was everyone from DJ Khaled to Cascade to Lil Yachty, Katy Perry, Griffin, so really all over the map in terms of genres. But I'd always been really interested in extending a live event, whether it be music or sports or something, into the digital world, and really, improving that at-home experience. There's so many people that can't get to a music event for whatever reason, or just don't have the means or location or timing. And so that's what led me to the 2D live streaming space. But in doing that, as we started to do a ton of volume in terms of viewers, I started to realize that 2D flat live stream it was missing something for me. And that's sort of what led me down the rabbit hole on the metaverse. Became very fascinated with it, and then had some mutual connections to the founders of Stageverse, and saw the product they were building and really fell in love with it. So that takes me to about 2 years ago when I made the jump over to Stageverse.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, as you mentioned, like during COVID time, it was a way for people to sort of still enjoy the music scene and just events. I saw, it seemed like every weekend there was some sort of like online festival version where it would just be like back-to-back artists.
Yep.
And it sort of grew because you're forced into it. But now, yeah, it's one of those things where people realized, oh, this is another way that you can globally attract a different viewership. So now you switch basically from this 2D setting to 3D. Was Stageverse, I guess let's start from a high level. What is Stageverse and how is it connected from that 2D to 3D world?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I guess a little background on Stageverse. So even before, Stageverse was being built before I was even there. It originally was created to reinvent the at-home concert experience. And somewhere along the way, it originated in VR, and then VR maybe didn't take off as fast as everyone maybe would have thought in the early days of VR. So they went through a little bit of a pivot to deliver the experience on mobile. And we wanted to be as accessible as humanly possible. And in doing that, they built a lot more than just an at-home concert experience platform. So when I joined, and the term the metaverse was hardly in the mainstream ethos at that time, it started to pick up, and we started to realize, that's what they had built at Stageverse was a full metaverse platform, a social metaverse platform, and really a way to improve the digital experience of any type of, IRL socializing, whether it be just a party or hanging out with your friends. They've created a platform that made doing that digitally as close to the real thing as possible. We've built in really killer spatial audio, so you can have 5, 6 different conversations happening in the same space at the same time, and that they don't overlap with each other. It really does work. You can kind of be having a conversation with someone at one end of a space and then get bored of them and go to the other side and have a completely different conversation. And it really just gives you that feeling that is natural to socializing, and similar to the way it is in real life. So we can take that and really apply it to so many different things, not just music events. And music is in our DNA, and we're going to continue doing stuff in music for sure. But we really are trying to to really own the metaverse party or the metaverse social experience. And really, Stageverse, where we sit in sort of the marketplace, is we're straddling that line of fidelity meets accessibility. And what I mean by that is, fidelity, near photorealistic avatars. We've pushed the graphics and the fidelity of the experience as far as humanly possible, at least on a mobile phone. We wanted to make sure we maintained that experience on mobile. So, you'll see in our avatars and our website, the spaces and things that are on our platform. You can see here, as photorealistic as it gets on a mobile phone. And then that accessibility, the first pillar of that being we are available on mobile, especially when it comes to Web3 metaverse platforms. There are very few that are on mobile at this current point. So that was a really important, tenet for us. We want to make the metaverse a thing that people can drop in, at any time. They're on the go. They can still pop in with a friend. They get a notification, your friends, hanging out, listening to music, and you want to jump in while you're, commuting to work or something like that and hang out with your friends. You can do that. So that's why, mobile was super important to us. We do have a VR product. So, we have sort of one foot in the future should that like higher level of immersion really pick up in the way that some people believe it will. And then we're also launching our browser platform very soon. So, that will allow for a larger screen than a mobile phone, but not all the way to the immersiveness of VR. And I think also as we move into this, phase, moving into the Web3 community, the browser-based experience will be really important, because I think a lot of people are already on Discord and Twitter, and being able to get into our worlds from sort of one click very fast will be really great for us.
Yeah, and so you're basically building this metaverse from scratch, right? You're not living on top of a Decentraland or Sandbox like that. So why did you decide to do it that way, sort of making it your own? Is it just the flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think the first thing is just we've been working on the technology for so long. We do, as a company, one of our core tenets is putting that user experience first. So, I think what a lot of these metaverse platforms like Decentraland and Sandbox have done from an economy perspective and from a community perspective has been truly amazing. But I do think, there's a bit of a gap right now in that user experience, probably across the board in all Web3 right now, because we are so early. But, specifically when it comes to metaverse platforms, a lot of these platforms, the metaverse worlds, they kind of evolved out of gaming, and gaming has been pushed so far in terms of graphics and user experience with the AAA game titles and all of that. And we sort of took a little bit of a step back, I think, in that user experience category when we moved to this, Web3 paradigm. So I think, we wanted to make sure we had total control over that user experience. I don't think it's going to be one or even two or even three metaverses that are going to rule them all. And, there's going to be different use cases for various metaverses, and different people are going to care, prioritize different things. Some people care greatly about how decentralized the platform is, down to every pixel and every, data source. Some people don't care as much about that. They want the properties of NFTs and blockchain and, digital identity and ownership, but they don't necessarily care about having every single piece of data decentralized. So
Mm.
I think there'll be different use cases for different ones, but I think ultimately the core reason is, we had been building this for a long time, the technology infrastructure, and we really wanted to control that user experience that we're delivering to the community.
Yeah. So then a little about how it works. So do you start with everyone starts with you can have a basic avatar. Do you buy the avatar or do you buy the accessories to go with it?
Yeah, so I would say you're going to hear a common theme from me across this conversation, which is we're taking a very phased approach to almost everything,
Mm.
including our transition to Web3. So, we are a Web2 company by background. When we created the platform, Web3 hadn't caught on like it has now,
Mm.
and we launched our public beta in October, so you can actually download the app right now and play around with it. And we did that public beta with the band Muse, British rock band. We did a virtual tour with them, and really that was largely just a test. We wanted to test, what the sentiment was around the concert experience. We wanted to test converting a large partner audience, like one of Muse's caliber, onto our platform and see sort of how that works. And we also wanted to test, really just put the product in the hands of the people and see what people started to use it for. And we got the feedback was extremely positive from a qualitative perspective. People leaving comments saying this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen, things like that. So we were really happy about that. And I also think another thing we were particularly happy about is, yes, people were loving the concert and people were spending 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time in the concert experience. But what also struck us is people were spending almost more time outside the concert experience than they were inside. And what were they doing? They were meeting people, they were socializing, they were hanging out, and they were doing it in this digital medium. And so that was really exciting for us. And so, with that phased approach, we are the base state you see now. If you log in now, you'll have a selection of avatars. You'll be able to choose from various outfits. Male, female. You have a Muse themed outfit. We did a partnership with Balmain Paris, and they designed 2 exclusive avatar outfits as part of the Muse experience. So you can go in and select those outfits as well. So we're always going to have a free baseline model of Stageverse. We don't want to be restrictive to people. We want people, as the next 10, 50, 100 million people come into the Web3 space, we want to make sure there's not like a crazy high barrier to entry, like they have to spend, $2,000 on an avatar or something like that in order to use it. So there will always be that sort of baseline free version that you see now. And as we make this transition into Web3, we will be releasing NFT-based avatar collections. We will be releasing NFT generative spaces, and you'll be able to buy those. The token will be stored in your wallet, and the platform will register that and unlock your ability to use that in world. And then eventually, we'll also be moving to a modular avatar system where you'll be able to buy, an NFT-based hoodie or sneakers or jeans and mix and match and really start to style your avatar, all based on NFT-based goods. So we're the direction we're going is to have all of the goods and spaces in our world NFT-based, but with just a few select options as a free baseline model.
Yeah. So, and that's a good way basically to start. I think as far as like from the consumer side, they like to see that you have that background. And if the world is already basically built out and then you add the NFTs in later, I think that's what a lot of people are sort of looking for, especially in like the gaming side of NFTs. Like there's so many of these PFP projects that come out, they start as like a PFP project and then they try to make a game and it's like, I'd rather have a game that then brings the NFTs in as far as the like accessibility and the different outfits that you could wear and things like that. So when there's one of these concerts, like what I was showing on the screen there, is it basically the live concert is happening somewhere and it's getting shown to the world within this world, or is it pre-recorded? How's that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really, the short answer is it depends. We have a few different formats we can do specifically when it comes to concerts. One format is a 2D live stream that is projected into a 3D space. That's probably the easiest and simplest live stream format we have. And what that does is, yes, it doesn't give you that full level of immersion, but it does give you the social aspect. What I always found was a big struggle for me in my past job was you're doing a 2D live stream, and if there's 1,000 people, which is not even a lot, but even 1,000 people watching, that chat window is scrolling about 200 miles an hour. You can't actually meaningfully communicate with anyone. So by taking that 2D stream and putting it into a 3D space, now all of a sudden you can hang out, you can watch the concert, you do get that content, but you can use the voice chat capability and the spatial audio to then be hanging out with your friends, meeting people, talking the same way you would at a real concert. And then there's, a scaled up version of that. So then there's, levels of immersion. We can do 180, 180 degree immersion, and we can do that live as well from like a real event. And then there's the 360, fully immersive 360. And most of the time that'll be post-produced. So the Muse concert was captured at a real stadium concert that they did pre-COVID. And then it was post-produced and released in fully immersive 360. But we can also do it at, as a bespoke event. It doesn't, we can do it as, okay, Justin Bieber is going on tour and we capture one of his shows and then, deliver that as a concert. But we can also do it in, what we call like a sound stage or a meta stage, where, we take an artist and we put them on a stage with no audience and, tons of cameras around them. And that begins, then we can play with the creativity. That's kind of the direction that something like, the Marshmello or the Travis Scott concerts in Fortnite that you may have seen. That's how those ones were produced.
Yeah. So is it generally you're making sort of partnerships with these artists as far as they already have these events planned, and then you come to them and you say, this is another way to get that out to people?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most common format. There's definitely some artists that want to do stuff that is bespoke and like designed specifically for the metaverse versus just like an extension of their live tour. So it really depends on the artist's vision. But again, like concerts, while that is where we came from, like it's still just one pillar, one I guess vertical that we're playing in right now. We're very much the idea we have for our future is really anything is basically spatializing anything you can do on the internet. That could be, watching basketball highlights. That could be watching YouTube videos. Instead of watching YouTube videos by yourself, all of a sudden you can watch it in a room with your friends and talk about it freely. The same way you would if your friend came over to hang out and you flip on a bunch of YouTube videos or a TV show or a sporting event. Basically any sort of almost any 2D I should say, not every piece of 2D content is better in 3D, but I would say almost any piece of 2D content or something you're doing on the internet could be put into a 3D spatialized environment and gets that added level of engagement and that added level of socializing.
Yeah, I earlier this year I got the Oculus, and that's one thing I've noticed is it is pretty cool. You do like actually feel like you're in a world, and the actual quality of the imagery in there has gotten so much better. And I mean, each year it's probably just going to get better and better. But like you said, if it feels real, then that just makes it that much more enjoyable as the consumer.
Yeah. And I think it's also an incredibly powerful, I think, community tool. You have, especially when you get into like NFT communities and things of that nature, like you have Twitter, which is great. Everyone's congregating on Twitter, and you have Discord, which is also great for asynchronous communication and for getting information out to your community. And then even Twitter Spaces, Twitter Spaces is great for a founder to be talking at their community or the team to be, briefing a community or bringing them up to speed on what they're doing. But what I think is really missing is the ability for the community to get to know each other. Sure, some of those relationships are forming on Twitter and on Discord, but it's a lot harder. Whereas you get all of a sudden we give, an NFT project, a community clubhouse that only their token holders can gain access to, all of a sudden they can do, a Friday night hangout or, happy hour in the metaverse. And now all these people that are in their community that are all over the world can come together and socialize almost the same way you would in real life, but do it with more regularity and at a larger scale.
Yeah. Yeah, like the, NFT NYC, those are the IRL events, but say you live in another country and you can't make it or it's expensive to do the trip, maybe you can, check in that way and still be a part of it because you're part of this community even though you're outside of it. That's like the cool end of things like this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And honestly, I think NFT NYC, the original NFT NYC, was when I had a little bit of an aha moment for those NFT communities,
Mm,
because I saw like how excited people were to be in the same room as someone else who holds a doodle or a fluff or whatever. All these communities they're a part of, all these people they've formed some relationship online that they had never met in person. Because that was really the first in-person conference that people got to, post COVID. So it was like all these relationships that were formed online, all of a sudden these people are now in the same room together. And I saw the excitement and I saw the sort of power of it. And I think, giving that tool to a larger scale and, to people that may not be able to make those conferences and things like that, but also with more regularity,
mm.
give that same feeling and that same presence to these communities, but be able to do it, once a week, twice a week. We'll see, these relationships blossom even further.
Yeah. And do you envision the avatars that are on here are going to be similar what they currently are, say like human based, or do you think long term people will be able to be their bored ape or their fluff in the metaverse in Stageverse?
Yeah. So definitely the latter. I have this vision of a cool space in our world where, a bored ape's hanging out with a crypto punk who's hanging out with a fluff, who's hanging out with a doodle. That's definitely the vision. And even for our own base avatars, non third party, we want to experiment with a lot more than just, the human style characters. I don't know exactly where we're going to go with it, but you may have a line of robots or cyborgs or who knows. So I definitely think we're going to push the envelope there. But for third parties, that definitely is the vision. There's some challenges in the short term on how to get there in terms of just some of these projects are built in 3D like natively, like something like the clones and the fluffs. That makes
Mhm.
it a lot easier to bring them in to our world. But most of the big blue chip projects, even if they aren't originally built in 3D, are thinking about their 3D models of their characters, because that's really the most obvious and inherent utility. Like
Mhm.
everyone talks about utility, and this year being a big year for really trying to drive true utility for NFTs. That's just the most obvious and like immediate one is giving them direct ability for that to become your identity in a virtual world, or in multiple virtual worlds.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked about it a little bit already, but let's get into how someone could get involved. So someone who's listening to this right now, what's the way that they can get involved, whether it's the before Web3 portion, but then into this transition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the before Web3 portion is really just serving, I think, as almost a proof of concept for the Web3
Yeah.
community. I think we've seen so many projects now that are doing NFT drops and raising all this money on an idea that they don't have any product. Like there's no you've seen the good and the bad of it, of course. Like Pixelmon being kind of like an example of a one that was pretty tough. They raised all this money to build a game with no real direction on the product. And so the Web 2 portion, I think, shows, we've already built this product. It's out there. People can touch it. They can feel it. They can use it. So I think that's going to be really exciting as we do begin to build up our community in the Web 3 space. It'll be a place for people to congregate. It'll be, a real true proof of concept to show the quality of the product that we are bringing to market. But as far as, getting involved, so, as I mentioned, we are taking the phased approach to our Web3 transition. Phase one's already live. So right now in the app, you can link your MetaMask wallet, and you can actually, if you have an NFT, it'll verify that NFT. You can select it, and it'll float above your avatar as like a little verified PFP that hovers above your head. So that's just like step one of bringing in your sort of NFT identity. The long tail being that what we were talking about, bringing in your whole avatar as an ape or a fluff or something like that. But we also, with that MetaMask integration, we can also token gate spaces. So right now we have a few different NFT communities just really on a test pilot basis, making it so only their community members can access their space. That space may just be a clubhouse or something like that. But that functionality is all live in the app right now. Our next big milestone will be our land sale. That'll happen end of May. Roughly end of May. And our land sale, we're taking a little bit different approach to the land sale than some of the other platforms you may have seen. We do believe in the value of a map for discovery purposes. We do understand why people are, selling land and have that sort of organization of space through a map. But we don't really believe in this sort of one finite plot of land forever, and floor prices getting prohibitively high for new entrants into the space. It just seems a little artificial in a digital world. It's like land is not scarce in the digital world. So it seems just like tad bit artificial. And so what we're doing is what we're calling our multiverse strategy. So what we're doing at the end of May is we're launching what we're calling our first verse. And that will be, a finite plot of land similar to what you've seen. Our map will look very different than anything you've seen for sure. But it really will be, it'll be a map-based economy. And that'll be sort of the first entrance. That'll be the first thing you can buy a part of the Stageverse ecosystem. If you really want to, become part of our community, we thought it was sort of poetic, if you will, to like make land that first thing you can really buy and hit yourself to in the Stageverse. But down the road, we will be allowing additional verses to be spun up. So, you're seeing land sales happen left, right, and center now. I know, I believe it was Shiba is doing a land sale. The Bored Apes are doing a land sale. So those types of platform, those types of partners and people, we're going to give them access to our tools. We're taking a little bit of like a picks and shovels approach to the metaverse. So if, the Bored Apes came to us and said, we're going to do this land sale, but we like the look and feel of your platform. Can we create Bored Ape Verse on top of your tech? We're going to allow for that to happen. Now, we're going to give some time for our first verse to, kind of build itself up and create a really strong sense of community around that first plot of land before we do it. And there will also be a ton of rewards for our initial landholders as those new verses are spun up. So we're sort of protecting against dilution and rewarding those initial landholders with, future NFT drops, with airdrops, of course, with token rewards, things like that. So make sure we're still taking care of our initial landholders and we're not diluting people too much. But we will allow for sort of our ecosystem to continue to grow. And, who knows, 5 years from now, we may say, we're going to launch a second verse ourselves, in addition to partnered verses with different people and partners that are in our ecosystem. So that's our, sort of different spin on the land economy. Mm-hmm. And then, from there, we will be launching our own avatar collection. I think, the immediate difference between some avatar collections you've seen and ours is, that immediate utility. You buy an NFT, PFP, or an avatar from us, you can then go use it immediately in our world, right out of the gate, and they'll all be rigged full body to work in our world, straight at the get-go. And we're also going to be experimenting with generative space collections. So same way you have generative PFP projects with, rarity traits and all that, we're going to do the same thing with spaces. So you may be, we maybe drop a collection of space villas, and you may get that one of one rare floating gold mansion or something. I'm making that up, but you get the general idea. And then the last thing, that will culminate our transition to Web3 will be a token launch. We'll be launching a utility token later this year.
Yeah, and then as far as like the land side of it goes, do you think that basically what is owning a plot of land to someone? Are they able to then connect with different artists that maybe through the Discord that have been involved before? Like if I own a plot of land, like I just would be able to throw events on there as well.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of things you can do, and also just kind of depends on who you are. Are you a collector? Are you a participant? You an investor or a creator? So we'll at the beginning we'll have a number of different space templates. So probably like 10 to 15 different spaces that you'll have immediate access to that you can customize to a degree. So there'll be you want to hang your NFTs on the wall or do a live stream. We'll have the ability to integrate a live stream in some of the spaces, and you can take that space and place it on your land and sort of do whatever you would like. When it comes to like more custom ground up sort of builds, we're taking a phased approach to our creator tools as well. So out the gate we'll have a few different world building partners that'll have access to our space SDK and our sort of environment creators that will be able to build new environments from the ground up and new spaces. And eventually those creator tools, we'll start to roll them out to the public. And, for those people that are 3D designers and artists, like you mentioned, and things like that, they'll be able to build within our world. It'll take some time to get there, again, sort of that phased approach. But yeah, the short answer is you buy land. Now you have a place on the map. You're literally, the saying goes, you're now literally on the map. So you're discoverable. People can find you based on that map discovery process. And you can put any of our space templates on there. You can host events. You can hang out with your friends. You can play music. You could charge a cover charge to your metaverse party. There's a lot of possibilities. And I think we're also really just trying to see, give our users, put the land and the space ecosystem in their hands and really see what they do with it. And really start to double down on as we get feedback from the community on what they're liking and not liking, start to double down on some things and build out additional tools for people as we start to see how they use the product.
Yeah, and it's cool when you're able to say put that into the hands of the creators, and just everyone has sort of a different way of thinking about the metaverse and the capabilities or what they want to do in there. That like Twitch is such a massive platform. People like streaming say they could be streaming Fortnite, right? And
Yep.
it's on the bigger screen and people are still able to watch it in that way. And it's just like a different way of reaching out and connecting to your actual viewers. And like you said earlier, like the chat can go super fast, but if you can just interact with them verbally, that's good too. You could probably control like how many people are allowed in, say it's like token gated or anything like that. Is that something that you're planning on as far as whether it's through the token itself or just in general ways to gate the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, that's actually a functionality that already exists. We can do, token gated spaces, right? Like already, specific whitelisted token that people have to have in their wallet in order to gain access. And if they try to enter a space that they don't, it'll just say you need XYZ token to gain access to this space. So yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what creators do with that ability. Especially with that real-time social engagement and the voice chat and things like that. It's like, I could see a world in which, maybe an esports streamer or a gamer or something launches a token and says, you want to hear me, commentate my own Fortnite match or something like that and hear what's going through my head. They'll be in a group of, you buy this token and you get to come hang out with me as I play Fortnite and sort of tell you what's going on and you can ask questions and things like that. That's just one example, but
Yeah.
I could see, creators getting, starting to monetize and start to push the limits of giving their community access to them in a more meaningful way. Because I think, the community and the social aspect is just so strong on our platform that it'll be very cool to see how creators use that.
Yeah, and I mean, esports is such a massive industry that they already sell out arenas for a lot of these big tournaments. That it's similar where maybe you can go on, and the fact that it's already digital, that's the streaming part of it. Then it's probably pretty simple to connect the dots there as well. So, are there any specific dates that are already set up, or maybe there's some events in the near future?
Yeah, well, I mean, you'll start to see a lot of like information bleed out over the coming weeks. We actually just released our first blog post that really just kind of a lot of the stuff I just touched on actually, but where we've come from, where we're going, why we believe in the future, why we're transitioning to Web3, all of that stuff. And then we'll have some more, tactical announcements coming over the next weeks. Details around our land sale, everything from allow list mechanisms to mint price and all of that stuff will be coming out over the course of the coming weeks. We'll also be announcing a number of our land sale partners. So we're currently in conversations with a number of very, very large brands and IP, both from Web 2 and Web 3 spaces. We wanted to have that balance because, I think some of the Web 3 platforms that exist today can be a little daunting for like a common Web 2 brand to get into the metaverse. They want to, but whether it's the user experience that is a little bit challenging, or the economy is so well developed, the investment so high, whatever that reason may be, we really want to be a bit of a bridge, for brands that want to enter the metaverse but aren't really sure where to start, and what is the best platform to represent their brand. So we are talking to a number of really big Web 2 brands, sports, gaming, music, all names you'd heard of, and we're pretty far down the path with a few of them. And those partners will be, working hand in hand with us to not only help us build up our community, make sure that land sale is successful and all of that, but also to make sure there's, a lot of content happening in our world. We want to make sure there's lots of really cool stuff going on, and things for people to do. So we'll also be announcing those, as we solidify them. We're also talking to a number of big NFT communities and projects as well, personalities in the space. So expect a lot more of those announcements to come out over the next couple weeks. And then, yeah, as far as dates, I would say end of May is the big. I can't give you an exact date quite yet, but end of May is when the land sale will happen. And then we're rolling out a couple really cool things that are really centered around like the social nature and the community nature of our platform. We have a feature called Neighborhoods, which basically, if you start a neighborhood, you're automatically going to get on the allow list up to, of course, once we max out, then that'll be it. But what neighborhoods will allow, are minting when you buy a plot of land, pre-sale or anything, or even public sale. You're not going to choose it off a map. It's going to be randomly generated. So you'll buy a plot and you'll get randomly assigned. The only thing different is if you join a neighborhood, you'll be guaranteed that you're next to the people that are also in your neighborhood. So really just playing with that idea of community and, bringing in existing friend group. I can get my fantasy football league and say, let's all grab a plot of land all next to each other on the map. And just really creates that sense of community from the start in building our map.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the type of thing where, people talk about community all the time, and it's still a lot easier to make the actual connections to people from talking to them. I mean, let's say even just say this interview, like if we did this in a back and forth through DMs or through Discord, it's not exactly the same sort of connection as when you're physically talking to the people and you're able to like hear what they actually have to say, and it's not every single word is specifically worked out to a way that like sounds better. It's more like authentic that way to have the real conversations with people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more natural, and I think it's also taking that one step further. It's like there's of course voice communication that's like one-to-one or one-to-many. Here we're doing one-to-one. Twitter Spaces would be a one or two to many. You're speaking at an audience. But what we've really designed is a platform that allows for many to many. And that's really what human socializing truly is. You're so rarely just one-on-one if you're in a social environment. You're hanging out in groups, and the ability for that to happen naturally. And we're human beings. We are 3D people, and so it makes sense that socializing in 3D and in voice, the natural way that we've sort of grown up to communicate is still the most effective way. I still think, of course, texting and Discord and Twitter and all those things still will have their place and always will, because they have their utility. But I think that natural social interaction is really big for kind of the future of digital experiences, and really just participating in anything in a digital medium. Trying to make that as natural feeling as possible is really crucial.
Yeah. Yep. And that's sort of the future with metaverses and just 3D world, as you mentioned earlier. Is there anything else that you were interested in plugging or think that we already missed from talking today?
No, I think we covered most of the things. I would say, yeah, just if you're interested, the app is live, so you can download. Just search Stageverse in the App Store on iOS or Android. Definitely play around with it. Of course, join the Discord. That's where we'll be populating most of our big announcements and information, and all of that. Of course, also follow us on Twitter. We'll be bleeding some content out there as well. But yeah, really just encourage anyone to jump into the community right now. We're very responsive, and we also want to build, with our community. We want to take input on the direction, and really truly embrace the spirit of Web3.
Yeah. And I'll add in the show notes here the Discord link, that Medium article, and the Twitter links below. So if people are interested, you'll be able to just click right under the video and get all that information and be able to keep up. So yeah, definitely appreciate having you on. I think this was some good info. You guys seem pretty prepared, already having most of the metaverse side and tech built out, and it sounds like you have a lot of cool partnerships and connections already. So thanks for hopping on. I think this was been a pretty good chat. Excited to see how you guys go long term.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
Yeah. So we will see you guys next time. We'll have some other shows the rest of this week, but make sure that you check out Stageverse, check those notes below, and we'll catch you guys next time.